What's up, guys? I'm Joe McGowan. I'm your host at MonsterEV.com. I'm here with my buddy, David Miller. We had a wild week last week. This week, Dave can't contain himself with this week's top 5 picks. Should we get to the action, buddy?
Let's do it. Let's win. Time to win.
Time to win. Let's do it. Number 5, we have Atlanta. They're at undefeated Carolina, who's 12-0 still. Cam Newton, the whole deal, 7.5 points. What are we seeing here as your number 5 pick?
We got to take Atlanta with the 7.5. Basically, Carolina, I know we've been going against, and we've been doing all right, too. And then when we play them when they do good. So we have this team figured out. When you're 12-0, and basically a few of the games have come down to the last play, and you've kind of squeaked by, it really takes its toll. So this is, once again, more of a play against Carolina than on Atlanta. Divisional game. Atlanta has lost, I believe, 5 in a row.
Feels like 5,000.
Yeah, they started off with some great wins, though.
What happened?
They beat the Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins, Giants, and Texans starting out. So there's some good value here where you're getting more than 7 because of that. So you got to take the 7.5 here. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Let's move to number 4. Our number 4 pick has me really kind of beside myself on this one, Dave. Like, I just have so much that I want to chime in about. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, AFC North. You have Pittsburgh. When I'm watching them last week, I'm personally saying to myself, okay, this is horrible because you got Big Ben who's just throwing 50-yard bombs like they're just little nothings and dropping it right in the basket. I mean, just perfect.
Against Indianapolis,
Against Indianapolis. But his deep ball is so good, and he looks so good, and the team looks good. I'm thinking the public is just going to be all over this team next week. I mean, everybody in the world's going to be like, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh.
I think
that's what's in my mind, as I'm watching the game. But then we've got Cincinnati that they're playing. So it's like, okay, now Cincinnati, they're still playing well. They had a couple losses, but they've rebounded. World-class team. People put them in the power rankings high up. Tough game. Only 2.5 points. The problem I have, though, with Cincinnati, I feel like their quarterback, Carrot Top, is a little bit of a choker. I'm sorry. I just feel like the guy's a bit of a choker in the big game. And I think this is a big game, so it really has me worried in a tight game which way to go. And I'm just not sure, but I know you're confident. So
yeah, I'm always confident.
What do you like?
Yeah, historically, and I'm talking for a lot of years, maybe 30 years, Pittsburgh has really been public, and they've really just handled Cincinnati. So Cincinnati beat them last game as a 1-point dog. They beat them. And this game, basically everybody's riding the Pittsburgh. Like he just said, I mean, they looked their offense looked unstoppable last week against Indianapolis, who one could argue actually threw in the towel. And then against Seattle, they played them tough. However, they were coming off of a bye. So coming off of the bye really helped them there. And we got to remember, guys, Cincinnati is 10-2. And Pittsburgh's 7-5 over a bigger sample. Let's not get too caught up in what we've seen the last couple of games with Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, they have a couple of blowout wins recently too, but we tend to forget that and just it's a one-sided thing. Everybody's looking at Pittsburgh. Wow, they won, last week by 30. No, we don't do that over here. Home field being worth 3, Cincinnati being the better team, this line's got to be 3.5 plus. So to be able to lay 2.5 here, it's just because, like you said, historically Pittsburgh's had their number in these games. But this is a new year, better team, lay 2.5.
And again, these 3s and 7s for the little bit more of the beginning, bettors and players. These are the key numbers. Different numbers have different values, different point values of how much it's worth, how often games land on certain numbers. So when you get to the 2.5s, the 3s, the 3.5s, the 6.5s, 7s, 7.5s, these are the key numbers. So you feel you have a world-class team only laying 2.5 at home. It's a clear-cut play.
Yeah, what I wanted to say about this game too, Pittsburgh, when they played Seattle, that 4.5 went all the way down to like 2.5. So a 2-point move. And then it didn't cash, but the trend carried over last week. We had 7, and a few spots go down to 6.5, and it closed at 10. So because so much money's come in lately on Pittsburgh, I mean, I could see this game going down, as shocking as it is, to pick them. So this is one where you want to up your bet. You have the better team at home. laying under 3. You got to up your bet here if this does happen. So we'll do 1 unit at 2.5, and at Pick'em or 1, we'll do 2 units.
Number 3, we have San Diego. They're at Kansas City. And San Diego, I'm sorry, they look like a piece of shit. I mean, what is going on with these guys? You know, Phillip Rivers used to be, in my mind, like an elite quarterback, and maybe he still is, but where are these guys? And now they're playing Kansas City, who's 7-5. And Kansas City, you know, they look pretty good. They've had some big games. They've had some losses, being 7-5. But where are we at in this game with San Diego getting 10 at Kansas City? Pretty big number to lay, but what are you thinking?
Well, it shows you, I mean, how much things do change over the season. You know, preseason, this line would have been Chiefs maybe by 1 or 2. In fact, I think it was 2. So they've won 6 in a row. Chargers have lost 7 out of 8. This is kind of a balance of grabbing San Diego at their low point and going against the Chiefs at their high point. Now, keep in mind, they are only 7-5. So they're not exactly a team that's like, I don't know, 10-2 or 9-3 laying double digits. They have just been running good lately, which usually creates value because everybody's just kind of looking at that. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take the 10 here. If it goes to 11, do 2 units, 13, 3 units. Got to do the what ifs because there's some pretty big moves this year.
Sounds good. Let's move right to number 2. Number 2, we have Washington. Kind of, again, another on and off again type of team, home, away, all the different things we've talked about in the past weeks. You've covered pretty well for people that have been watching. They're against Chicago, another 5-7 team at Chicago. Chicago's laying 3. You got Jay Cutler, and he's kind of on again, off again as well. What are we looking at here?
This is a clear-cut value play on Chicago laying 3. And it's only 3 because last week they lost to San Francisco. So when you lose to San Francisco, there's definitely some panic. Guys, though, this is the same team that won at Green Bay 2 weeks ago. But we seem to have a short memory with these lines. Washington, like I said, 1 road win in 2 years. They are absolutely awful on the road. So here, with home field being worth 3, having the better team. And another thing I want to say, Washington is coming off of the short week. So Chicago, it's kind of offset by the fact that they did go into overtime last week. But I like when a team is a big favorite and they lose outright. Whenever that happens, it's kind of like the next week they tend to bounce back. I love it. The bigger of a favorite that they were and lose, the more they bounce back. So yeah, this is a bounce back. We have the better team laying only 3. Huge play. And if it goes to 2.5, 3 units. Let's just do 3 units.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of almost can't contain myself right now. I'm just so excited because if you're this passionate about number 2, and I'm just being for real, my heart is racing. Like, I'm dead serious. I kind of have goosebumps right now. If you're this real about your number 2 pick, I can't wait for that number 1. But before we get to number 1, just for fun, I mean, I'm just the host. I'm not as big of a bettor as a lot of these other guys, but I am still putting down a little bit of cheddar. And this is not a gypsy roll, but I did want to thank my man, Super Dave, as I like to call him, for last week's winning picks. Another winning week and a very nice week for myself. So
yeah, everybody's been texting, calling, and you know the money line strategy paid off. You know, with you had the Eagles money line too. That was good. I did. Everybody did. And yeah, you know it's incredible. 5 years ago, you know, I'm out there betting. I've really built a big following. So. And now even bigger. So yeah, no, good. It's fine. You risk the money, you know. So
should we take a look and back up the truck for number 1?
Let's do it.
Number 1, we have Buffalo. They're at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is getting 1.5 at home. Why is this number 1? What do you like here?
I like Philadelphia. It opened. They're plus 1.5. They opened as a 1.5 point favorite, and it got bet to 1.5 point underdog. And I think what's happening here, I like to try to figure out why the line is the way, what the public's looking at. Philadelphia, they were up by 21 last week at New England due to the 2 special teams plays. Now, New England, at that point, the main thing that Philadelphia was trying to do was burn clock. So because New England only lost by 7, it looked closer than it really was. So people are going, well, take away the 2 special teams plays and New England actually wins, or I don't know, it's a closer game. So there wasn't that normal adjustment that we'll see by knocking off one of the top 2 teams. But actually, special teams, first of all, is part of the game. I mean, it gets you wins and losses. And some teams, a few games extra, they win over it or lose. So then we got Buffalo. They're all hyped up. And they were laying 3 last week at home to Houston. They covered the number. It could have went either way at the end. So because of this, I don't know, I think that people are overvaluing Buffalo and undervaluing the Eagles. So with the defense now buying into what's going, the hurry-up offense had the defense really pissed off. You know, they're out there, they're tired, and they're feeling like, oh, you know, it's not fair. They finally bought in, and I'm very bullish on this team. I mean, I could see myself playing them each week from here on out. I can't believe they're plus 1.5. I want to say go 2 units on this number. And if it goes to plus 3, go ahead and do 3 units.
Okay, sounds great, Dave. So there you have it, guys. There's this week's top 5 at monsterev.com. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.